All right, in this lesson, we'll be going over stroke and fill effects on objects in InDesign. And there are a couple of ways you can add these effects. So for example, if I click this top photo here, and up at the top here on the control panel, you should have a fill and then also stroke. So if I click that, then we can choose from these preset colors here, for example, cyan, magenta, yellow, and then red, green, and blue. We can also double click on the actual fill here, if you double click there, and then apply a fill. You notice it doesn't really affect anything in here. That's because this frame has a photo in it, but if I click the edge of it off here, you'll see the rest of the frame, wherever the photo isn't, because this is the embedded object in this photo frame, we do have the orange there. So I'm going to undo, actually I'm going to set that back to none, and show another example here. Let's just say we drew out, for this example, a circle. So I'm going to click and hold onto the rectangle tool on the tools panel, go to the ellipse tool, and then click and drag, and hold shift for a perfect circle. And by default, it has no fill and no stroke. So again, we could fill with the default color here, or we can hold shift and click this arrow, and it gives us some more options. So we can click through here and adjust the CMYK settings, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, black. This is for a print context, of course, but you can also double click on it and then apply a color there as well. It also has the RGB levels, red, green, blue, and the CMYK percentages, and the 6-digit hexadecimal color code here that we use more often in a web design context. And then the lab colors, we don't have to worry about that in this course, but mainly we're just going to be looking at CMYK for print context, and then when we design for the screen, we would look at RGB. So hit cancel. So that's the fill. We can also add a stroke by using the control panel up here. So if I just shift click that and then choose some kind of complementary color to that, and we can barely see it, right? That's because it's only 1 point currently. So I'm going to click that. I'll make it about 8 points so we can see it better. And that's not quite complementary. Let's see. Let's just do kind of a custom. We'll talk about color later in the course, but I'm just going to do one that kind of looks good together. Okay. And then the style of it, we have solid, thick, thick, thin, thin, thick, and so on. You can do a dashed, dotted, wavy, and so on. Now we can also adjust these at the bottom of the tools panel right on here. Here's the fill. If I double click that, and I can change it there, and I can also click here and there's the stroke, double click that, and we can change it there as well. Just like in Adobe Illustrator, we have the fill and the stroke at the bottom of the tools panel there. We can also flip those colors. So if you click that double-sided arrow there, right next to those two, the fill and the stroke, it'll flip them. So I can flip it back. And we can also go to Window, Color, and then Swatches. And these are some preset colors here that we could apply if we wanted to see the stroke is in the foreground now, so that's the one that we're adjusting. And then if I click the fill, I can affect the fill as well. And then we can affect the tint for this panel. So if we're adding a custom color or a color from the swatches, and we'll go over swatches more in detail later, we can either change the fill and the stroke up here on the control panel or down here on the bottom of the tools panel. You can also press D on the keyboard. That will set it to the default of stroke that's black and then no fill. So it's transparent in the middle. And of course we could adjust the stroke to be none as well and add a fill back if we want. So add the border there, stylize it. There are a couple more options for the border or the stroke. We can go to Window and then Stroke Panel. And it's also over on the dock there by default in the Essentials workspace. And from here we can adjust what the caps are. Now this is irrelevant here. It's going to look the same because we don't have any endpoints. It's a circle, so it completes all the way around, but we can affect the weight, and we can also stylize it again down here. And if we had something that was not a circle, for example, I'll show you something with the pen tool here. I'll just click and drag, click and drag, and you can add to the ends of it arrows, for example, and so on. If you're creating a graphic for like a subway system, for example, that's or an infographic. So I'm going to delete that. Another useful feature of the stroke panel is the align stroke. What that means is it aligned to the center, so you have something like this where the edge of it is right in the middle of the style. I'll make it a little bit larger so we can see. And then I click here, align stroke to inside, so that puts the stroke on the inside of that circle. So there's nothing on the outside of the border. And you could also put it on the outside. So it's a slightly different look. between the default, align stroke to center, align stroke to inside, and align stroke to outside. So that's fill and stroke. You don't have to use this in your design, but you could if you want. Say if you want to bring this over to this edge and do some kind of effect. For example, if you went to Window and then Effects, and then change the way it blends with the area below it, like Screen, for example, or we could do Overlay. I'm going to press W just to kind of give you an idea. That would be helpful if you had some kind of information up here, like sale, or now open on weekends, or whatever it would say up there. I'm going to move this over here for now, and we're going to add some more text and a shape up here later though. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next lesson.